Bellevue City Council meeting for February 4th. It's my daughter's birthday today. Before we begin, I'll say a few words about attending and participating in our council meetings. We ask that individuals do not disrupt our meeting. This includes talking out of turn without permission, interrupting, making sounds when somebody else is talking, or approaching council member or city employees who are staffing the meeting. I ask that we use civil terms when we are speaking with each other and that we be polite, because I know we can express ourselves without being rude. So I ask that, and let's start with the roll call.
Mayor Robinson?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Malakutian? Councilmember Hamilton?
Here.
Councilmember Lee?
Here.
Councilmember Neuenhuis?
Here.
Councilmember Stokes?
Here.
And Councilmember Zahn.
Okay, so Councilmember Neuenhuis, would you lead us in the flag salute, please?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have one proclamation tonight for Black History Month, and Deputy Mayor Malakutian is going to read it, and Regina Glenn is going to receive it. Regina, you want to come sit up here? And I hope Dr. Whitehead joins us as well.
Thank you, Mayor. The story of Black History Month begins in 1950, half a century after the 13th Amendment abolished slavery in the United States. Black students and educators at Kent State University officially established Black History Month in 1970, after early work by historian Carter G. Woodson brought attention to the need for acknowledging and accurately representing Black and African American history. And beginning in 1976, the US President has declared the month of February as Black History Month to honor and affirm the importance of Black history throughout the American experience. And Black and African Americans have made innumerable contributions to our nation worthy of recognition and celebration, enriching America and the lives of every American through social, artistic, cultural, political, and economic advancement. And the city of Bellevue recognizes the ongoing need to confront racial injustice and inequity in our nation and local communities, as continuing instances of violence and discrimination against Black Americans demonstrates we have more work to do. And the observance of Black History Month calls our attention to the continued need to address and dismantle racism and to build a more just society that lives up to its democratic ideals. It serves as both a celebration and powerful reminder that Black history is American history. Now, therefore, I, Mo Malakutian, on behalf of Lynn Robinson, Mayor of the City of Bellevue, Washington, and on behalf of its City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of February 2025 as Black History Month, and encourage all community members to join us in reflecting on our shared history, honoring the invaluable contributions of Black Americans to our community and nation, and recommitting to the fight against racism in building a society that is more just, inclusive, and prosperous for all.
Thank you. Well, welcome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So good to see old friends, Conrad, from our Rotary Day, Mo, and of course, Lynn. My name is Regina Glenn, residing at 4872 123rd Place Southeast in Bellevue. I'm grateful to have the moment to express my support for this proclamation, honoring Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. for his outstanding work in Black History Month and the enduring legacy that Dr. King had. This proclamation is not a symbolic gesture only. It is a potential to spark and that meaningful conversation that we all need about belonging, commitment, and empowerment. By recognizing Black History Month and Dr. King's work, we are reminded of the importance of coming together as a community, irrespective of race or background. This proclamation can serve as a catalyst for creating more inclusive policies and fostering collaboration among different groups in Bellevue. The proclamation could inspire 3 East Side organizations that I am closely aligned with. First, Leadership East Side. I've had an opportunity to be part of that program for many years, and we are always looking for topics and areas to endeavor projects and activities. The Bellevue Rotary, one of our oldest Rotary, our Bellevue Club is always looking to be service to the community. This encourages and keeps us moving forward. And the Bellevue Police Department's African American Advisory Committee. It's a proud moment I have to serve with that group to help us build community, be a place if anything comes up. Our community members know they have a place to share their concerns, give recommendations. We know that this proclamation will help us share those values of equality, justice, community engagement, and they're all central to the message of Dr. King that's shared in this proclamation. As Dr. King once said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. This powerful statement highlights the interconnectivity that we have of communities and the importance of coming together to fight for, to advocate for equity and equality. Dr. King understood that when one group of people is marginalized, it affects the entire community, and it undermines the principles of justice and fairness. So, let us continue here in Bellevue to honor Dr. King by our measurable acts of understanding, compassion, and unity to assure that everyone has equal access to opportunities and rights. Thank you.
Thank you, Regina. Dr. Whitehead?
Yes, I just want to share 3 trivia points for you tonight. It's the educator in me. And thank you, Mo, for mentioning in 1926, Carter G. Woodson was the person that asked for Black History Week, not a month, a week. And he wanted to put shine a spotlight on contributions of Black Americans. Also, point 2, so many people often ask, why February? Well, February is significant because the month represents a recognition to President Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. And the third point I want to mention is that this started in 1926. 40 years later, in 1986, it was President Ronald Reagan that passed a proclamation for Black History Month. So, thank you for listening.
And then what do we have coming up tomorrow?
Oh, well, thank you, Mayor. Tomorrow, I hope all of you will attend our Black History Month reception. We have a host of artists' work exhibit out front. We also will have a special recognition from Jerry Lee, a community member. There are 4 Jacob Lawrence portraits out front, pictures out front, and we're hoping that one will become ours.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's the
Well,
surprise.
let's go down and get a picture together. Thank you. Motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Next, we have oral communications. City Clerk, do we have people signed up?
Thank you, Mayor. This evening, there are 4 pre-registered speakers on our list. So before I start calling names, I'll go over a few of the rules that the council has in place. So first, the total time for oral communications is for a period of no more than 30 minutes, and all topics must relate to City of Bellevue government. People speaking to items on tonight's agenda will be called first, and then if time remains, people speaking to items not on tonight's agenda will be called In both of those categories, the presiding officer is authorized to give priority to those who have not spoken to council within the last 60 days or who will be speaking on items that will come in front of council within the next 60 days. Each speaker is allowed to speak up to 3 minutes, and only 3 speakers are allowed to speak to any one side of a particular topic. And with that, I'll call our first speaker, who is joining us virtually, and her name is Sandy Sharma. Ms. Sharma, can you hear me?
Good evening. Can you hear me? By the way, it is.
Mr. Sharma,
E.
thank you.
All good. All right. I was hoping to join you folks today in person. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak, but I injured my back yesterday, so here I am. I will make it for the next meeting, hopefully. So I'm speaking on the topic of the Innovation Forum. I have been a resident of Bellevue now for about 20 years, moved here from Denver with my twins, and it was Microsoft as a customer of mine that got me here. And I've been in the innovation space since the year 1990. So I've been in the space for a long time, and I've seen a lot of things done well and a lot of things done poorly. I've been a serial entrepreneur, so I've built my own digital companies, and then I've had the good fortune of working with companies like Microsoft, Amazon, Alaska, Starbucks, Boeing, T-Mobile, some of our big giants in the area, to help them with their digital innovation. So a lot of my work has been on the advisory side, consulting side, and actually doing innovation projects.
We lost you.
Mr. Sharma, can you hear me?
Shoot.
A lot of work for government.
Mr. Sharma,
Yes.
my apologies. We lost you about 30 seconds ago or so. Could you go back a little bit
Sure.
in your comments? Thank you.
All right. So yeah, so I have been in the area for a long time, about 20 plus years, and I have been working for a lot of big companies like Microsoft, Amazon, Starbucks, Alaska, Boeing, T-Mobile, some of our giants in the area. In parallel, did a lot of innovation projects for government. So have worked for the city of Denver, Los Angeles, San Diego, Tequila, and Seattle here. In all the projects, what I found was that the innovation efforts don't succeed till we focus on the humans. And that's a lot of what my mission has been in life, to do innovation which is human-centered. So it's designed with humans in mind, and it also actually drives high adoption if you're focusing on if they like it or if they believe in it. So I had a very good career, and April of last year, I got into semi-retired mode. And then I was looking for something with a mission, met with Joe and Sabra, and was fortunate to have them give me some opportunities to work with them on the forum. So I've been very excited about the progress we've made thus far and whatever little support I've been able to provide, because it's been on getting real feedback on what the community wants to do in innovation. And we had folks who were just citizens, some who had businesses here, some who cared about the society, and just like me, wanted to pay forward. But overall, our vision is shaping well. And I think with our first forum meeting we had in November 2024, I think that's been pretty exciting. I think the biggest thing missing in our community is not the ingredients. It's just a platform which is neutral. And I think I'm excited that if the city is stepping up, it is always a neutral platform. So for example, if just Microsoft did it, you may not have Amazon participate. Or if T-Mobile did it, you may not have AT&T participate. So I think it's about providing a platform that is not just for big corporations, but a neutral platform that
Mr.
benefits
Sharma,
and that's what is exciting for me.
your time has expired now, but I would encourage you to email the council if you have additional thoughts.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Gayatri Venkataraman. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm Gayatri. I also go by G on number 3, G3. So I'm here to talk about, doubling down our efforts on Innovation Forum. I'm very much in support of that. I'm a resident of Bellevue for about 16 years, and before that on the east side, Redmond and Issaquah for like 10 years. So I've been in the state for a very long time. Microsoft was the one that brought me here. I'm a technologist. I have been in Microsoft for 20 plus years, and then I was at DocuSign for a couple of years. And then 1.5 years, I quit my corporate job and started my startup, Doda.ai, that is focusing on speeding up permit processing. And recently, Bob Ferguson, our governor, also made a note about the permit processing, how it is very critical. And 2 of the 3 executive orders were actually in that realm. So it is, what I wanted to point out is innovation is so critical in moving many of the things that is so essential for our humanity. And housing, buildings and all of those things is extremely critical. And I also wanted to point out that buildings actually emit the most amount of greenhouse gas emissions, which everybody know, 37%. And, focusing on it from the energy codes, sustainability, all of those things requires a lot of effort on the innovation side. And I have the opportunity to work with one of the cities in California. And our startup was part of the Techstars at Alabama. So we have an opportunity to work with that state as well. And I just wanted to say that, I have been a resident and I want to provide my services to the city that I live in for such a long time, to the state that I have been there for such a long time, to, make use of people like me. We are here to help our community go much further along. And with that, I will just stop talking. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Paul Quinn, who's joining us virtually. Mr. Quinn, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
We can. Your time begins now.
Very good. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Paul Quinn. I live in Sammamish. I'm speaking to you about as an individual who cares about fairness and how Bellevue solid waste customers are charged for disposal. Right now, we charge our residents and businesses for disposal based on the size of the container being picked up. The effect of this message is to say we don't care about how much you put in or divert from the landfill. This approach is completely unfair as it charges all people based on the size of the container rather than on what's in the container. We know this is wrong as our water, gas, and electricity charges are based on what we use rather than on the size of the wires and pipes connecting us to service. I've emailed you handouts about an hour ago. Handout number 1 shows a graphic of the trend of the monthly cost for garbage disposal for your single-family residences. It continues to go higher and higher. What's worse is this trend line is the city doesn't allow residences or businesses to reduce materials for recycling and compost. In fact, your unfairly increased cost to folks who work hard sorting recyclables and composting food scraps by charging them the very same as others who are indifferent. This is unfair, it's wrong, and it can and should be changed by weighing the refuse each customer creates. To begin this change, I recommend a pilot program called Smart Disposal, which will help significantly improve the city's diversion rates. Handout number 3 shows how Smart Disposal works in some detail. I'll now briefly describe what Smart Disposal is. Smart Disposal weighs each container picked up by the hauler at each single-family home. This system uses postcards mailed to each resident, provides data specific to the resident, and includes a landfill diversion rate per pickup, and how their use of the utility compares to others in the community. I provided handout number 4 to show an example postcard report to residents. This system helps us move from a toss and forget mindset toward making better choices. We all know that feedback through measurement works because water, electricity, and gas are metered, helping us to moderate our use. Smart Disposal provides the meters our disposal utility needs. What I recommend to you today is that Bellevue, the city known for its commitment to innovation, implement Smart Disposal. Metering and reporting to residents what we dispose of at the curb provides fairness to help us abate the increasing cost of disposal. This council should support fair pricing for our disposal utility. Thank you very much.
Can we ask Mr. Quinn that you email the council with that and copy Republic Services? Or can you
Mr.
tell
Quinn
him?
has emailed the council.
Okay, I couldn't find it. It's Quinn, Q-U-I-N? Okay.
It is from a different email address. I can point that out later. The last speaker on our list is Alex Zimmerman.
you see it? Can you forward it to me?
Sie Heil, my dirty damn Nazi, Gestapo, anti-Semite, bandita, yeah, fascist, yeah. My name Alex Zimmerman, and I want to speak today about Police Department Report 24, because I have experience with Police Department for more than 30 years. So my opinion with Police Department for 30 plus years, and I spoke with all chief of police for 30 years, with all of it, without exception. Yeah. For me, Bellevue Police Department from beginning acting like a more dangerous than Gestapo or KGB, and I explained to you why. It's not because they prosecute me 5 times. First time prosecute me in 96, punish me for class action, what is I bring behalf of 500 family in Crossroad, yeah, Central Park East Apartment. They by definition bandita, a mafia. That's exactly who you are. And under Mayor Robinson, they go more and more aggressive. It's happened right now with my 2 cases. What is I have right now? Pure fabrication, perjury under oath. This is under investigation right now. Not my cases. They perjury. Guys, I talking about Bellevue Police Commission for many months right now. You know what it means, and I talked before too. They not open to public. I want to explain to you what is I see today in Seattle. Seattle Council, I come to Seattle Council every day. Me speak. They appoint today five, I repeat, 5 people for police commissioner who have meeting every month. Yep, far away, Seattle, yeah? This is not Washington, D.C. So tomorrow, Medina, you know what it means, Bellevue too, have police forum. This in their website, and they invite everybody. This is a normal America, what is we have. Here, we have a pure Gestapo principle. And I told you why they're more dangerous than Gestapo and KGB, because Gestapo and KGB is official department, like FBI. Bellevue police acting like a political police, like a Gestapo. How they can prosecute me 5 times? Only for last year, 24, I have 18 tickets, almost for $3,000. And I talking about many times. You, Mayor Robinson, you know what it means. Your mentality is mentality of absolutely sick person. You know what it means. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly who you are. You don't do your job. 6 years you sit here in police and department, not this. So this manager give me answer. So Bellevue Police Department never
Mr.
will
Zimmerman,
be
your
open to
time-
public.
Mr.
So
Zimmerman,
you
your
don't care
time
about
has
what has happened.
expired.
Yes, I know.
Thank
Okay, you're disrupting the
I
meeting.
finished, but I will speak again about
Okay, you're
Thank you.
disrupting the meeting.
Nazi.
That's it. That's
You're a real
2
fighter.
warnings, and so I'd
That-
like that to be on the record.
Thank you. That is the end of our pre-registered list. At this point, I'd ask if there's anyone else joining us this evening who would like to make a comment, please raise your hand. 1 second, and that includes those online. So, ma'am, if you would come forward and please state your name for the record.
Hello, my name is Vicki Baguette. I'm a resident of Belfield Residential Park in Bellevue. I was here, I'm a member of the board, and I'm also on the committee to help restore and clean up the pond that runs through our community. I addressed the city council on November 12th of 2024, and here I am back again, asking for help to reroute toxic spills that are sent through the stormwater drainage system north of our community into a water conveyance system that continues on through our properties into the Mercer Slough. A water retention pond would solve this problem. There is a space that was left in Surrey Downs, just north of us, that would be a perfect spot for a retention pond. The most recent toxic spill happened in the fall of 2024. It was motor oil which was confirmed by the Environmental Protection Team working for the city of Bellevue. And all of you were given a picture of what that spill looked like. It's disgusting. It's bad enough that it's coming into our community and is disrupting the wildlife around us, but it's also draining into the Mercer Slough, which I would hope would be a concern for you. So I would like to ask, when will the city of Bellevue build a retention pond in the southern area of Surrey Downs?
Thank you. We don't speak to the public comment, so
Oh.
we've heard you, and thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
I did want to tell the city manager that I asked Rebecca Horner to reach out to Vicki.
Rebecca Horner?
Thank you, Mayor. The Utilities Department also will be in contact with you. Thank you.
Thank you. There was one additional hand online, and that's Todd Woosley. Mr. Woosley, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Thank you. Your time begins now.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm Todd Woosley, a longtime Bellevue resident and one of the owners of the Briarwood Center retail site in the Wilburton Bell Red area. It's one of the city's best opportunities to have additional new housing developed in the near future to help support the city's overall housing goals as well as affordable housing targets. I'm here tonight to first thank the staff. It's been an extraordinarily collaborative process to refine the land use code amendments so that optimistically it will be feasible to redevelop. And specifically, though, would like to ask the city to postpone the RFP for the Wilburton TOD site. This site is surrounded by our property, Briarwood Center. It's the old Brander Brothers Bakery site, then became a Porsche dealership. And it has a lot of potential. However, being developed as an individual site, it's really suboptimal. It would deliver fewer overall units, it would be expensive, and it's got some real problems. We're asking the city to use the same policy it's using on the Bell Red TOD sites and wait until the land use code amendments are done and adopted. There's a meeting tomorrow night at City Hall, looking forward to attending, that's going to talk about the opportunities on these sites, and we believe it's premature to go out with an RFP the night or the day after a meeting that the public is invited to learn about these sites. And specifically, we believe that having the LUCA adopted, anybody proposing a type of development on this site would know what they have to deal with. Beforehand, they don't. And we are offering to work with the city and work with others to explore the potential of some sort of collaborative process where we can optimize the yield of truly affordable housing from this city resource. In addition, it likely would increase the yield of housing, overall housing, including some affordable housing on the redevelopment of Briarwood Center. So we request the council direct the staff to delay the issuance of the RFP for the Wilburton TOD site until the time the Wilburton LUCA is adopted here in a few months. Thank you.
Thank you. I did not see any additional hands, so Mayor, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, we have 3 study session items tonight. One's with direction, the other 2 are information only. And City Manager, would you like to introduce these?
Thank you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and council members. Our first study session tonight is to cover a recommended land use code amendment to meet the intent of providing more clarity and objectivity in our standards for design, regulation, and review. It does meet the requirements of a House bill passed by the legislature in 2023, and it goes beyond that. Staff will summarize the recommended changes, the work of the Planning Commission over the past 6 months, and seek council direction to finalize the code for potential action in the future. From Development Services Department, we have Nick Whipple, our Assistant Director, and Kirsten Matt, Senior Planner. And seated next to them and speaking to the Planning Commission's recommendation is Vice Chair Louisa Collard. And with that, I'll hand it over to Nick.
Great, thank you, and good evening, Mayor Robinson, Deputy Mayor Malakutian, members of the council. We are excited tonight to present to you the Planning Commission recommendation on this proposed LUCA, and very grateful that Vice Chair Collard is also here to share some insights on the process that Planning Commission undertook. If we could go to the next slide. Here, Kirsten, I can grab that too. Thank you. So this evening, we are seeking direction from council to direct staff to prepare the LUCA ordinance for adoption at a future date on the consent calendar. For our agenda this evening, we'll provide an overview of House Bill 1293 that was passed into law, amending the Growth Management Act, and that was passed in 2023. We'll provide an overview of the Land Use Code Amendment before you all. And then we'll have Vice Chair Collard talk about the Planning Commission recommendation, and then we'll cover the engagement process that we took for this update. So first, to talk about some background with House Bill 1293. So when this was passed in 2023, the objective here was for cities to amend their regulations as it relates to the design review process. And when we amend those regulations, we're required to provide clear and objective design standards that would apply to these projects, with the effort or idea that this would help streamline some of the process. Other items that the bill requires cities to do is require concurrent and consolidated permit review, require no more than one public meeting, and encourage jurisdictions to enact regulations for expediting review of affordable housing. So we're happy to report that the city was in a pretty good position and that we were already addressing the last three bullets there. So we do allow for building permit applications to be submitted while the design review is still under review, so still allowing for some concurrent review and consolidated review. We have an optional public meeting, and usually developers opt to provide that public meeting so they can share information with the community about their project. So we are in a good position in that we were just requiring those to be optional. And then the council in 2023, ahead of adoption of this state law change, did provide direction for staff and development services to expedite permitting for affordable housing projects. So we were in a good position there as well. So as Kirsten's going to note as part of this project, how the city was responding to the changes and providing more clear and objective design standards, one of our primary efforts in taking this on was to not change the city policy direction that's been provided through the land use code or the expected design outcomes. So it was an exercise that we took on to really look at where we can make refinements to the language, tighten things so that we can streamline the process, but not change policy direction for places like downtown, Bellevue as examples. So with that, I will pass this over to Kirsten to walk us through the process.
Thank you. So when looking at what needed to be updated for the code, as Nick mentioned, there's many things we were already doing really well, but of course, things that needed to be changed. The main objective was to only include standards that were objective. So for example, terms like visually interesting or visually attractive are subjective because they can mean different things to different people. So with that, we were trying to remove as much of that soft language as we could from the standards themselves, but retaining some of that as good background information in what we're calling intent statements that exist in some parts of the code to help provide background to the standards, to help with both staff and applicant understanding of what the intent is behind the regulation itself. And then, of course, also looking at the review process to make sure that the process was also objective. There were three primary components to looking at this land use code update. The primary being a pretty intensive review and audit of the code itself to identify areas that we needed to look at for changes. The identification component was a big part of that audit as well, looking at where's language that we want to retain that's doing really, doing good work and creating good design outcomes, and what language do we need to revise, and then is there language that we might want to remove. And then the actual revising process, which involved a lot of design-specific staff from land use, which was really helpful to understanding what's working really well currently, and what is really important to retain, especially having staff that have worked previously on projects like downtown livability that can provide a lot of context. So that was a really great process working with them, and also trying to keep in mind different questions as we were doing this process of, what is good language to retain? How can we make this more clear? What are the design outcome objectives of this language to make sure that we're retaining that in the code? As an example, this is taken from downtown, so this kind of shows both the outcomes of that methodology and then also the reformatting that we did as a part of this process. Currently, the code, design standard codes are really different between different sections, so we wanted to also make sure that the formatting was consistent throughout the code, so it was easy to understand for anyone picking it up. So to that end, we really retained an overall title statement for the category to make sure people know what we're talking about here. It's ground floor retail and commercial windows, and then an intent statement, sort of the why do we have these standards here, and then the clear standard itself. And then there were a few things that we decided to include that go beyond 1293, one being adopting a vesting mechanism for design review permits to vest at the time of complete application. The goal there being that there is an understanding for the applicant that when they apply, the code that's in place isn't going to change on them mid-project review. So there's some ability to understand, what's going to apply to the project in the end. And then as kind of a cleanup component, we have a separate ordinance for the sign code cleanup, which is really just understanding that we want to move all the sign code into the city code. And this was an opportunity to clean up that in this project, but that will be adopted at a later date. That's the proposal right now. So it'll go with the rest of the sign code. So those won't be getting taken out with this. They're just getting moved, re-reviewed, and included in the city code. And with that, I will hand things over to Vice Chair.
Good evening, Mayor Robinson, Deputy Mayor Malakutian, and council members. So thank you for listening to my presentation. So let's start. The Planning Commission reviewed the LUCA in 2 study sessions in October 23rd and December 11. We held a public hearing on January 22nd before making this recommendation. The Planning Commission heard public comment during the study session and the public hearing. It was primarily focused on areas where the LUCA could provide more clear and objective language. The Commission provided similar comments and staff reviewed the feedback and adjusted the language where opportunities there were to tighten up the language as she indicated. And on the 22nd of January, on the public hearing, there was also a comment that was given regarding the vesting of the master development permits and administrative design permits, and potential complication if both the MDP and the ADR are submitted concurrently and do not vest at the same time. And we discussed it, but Kristen will explain what resulted from that in the next slide. After the public hearing, the Planning Commission found that the LUCA meets the decision criteria of the LUCA 20.30J135 and is consistent with the comprehensive plan, enhances the public safety and welfare, and is not contrary to the best interests of the citizens and property owners of the city. So the Planning Commission recommended by unanimously voting in favor that the City Council adopt this LUCA.
And then regarding the post-hearing change that Vice Chair mentioned, this was a small change to, it will be at the very last page of the code, to basically allow master development permit when submitted concurrently with a design review application to vest to the land use code in time at the time of complete application. So essentially it will vest to the same requirements as the design review permit. It felt like that made sense. That was kind of an easy small change that we were comfortable with. And then a bit on engagement. We of course followed our process for requirements. This involved a lot of consulting and reviewing with internal staff, as well as informing the public and gathering feedback predominantly from design and industry professionals that understand some of this more kind of wonky code. And we also presented to the Bellevue Development Committee on September 11th. and have been maintaining our online presence through the city's webpage as well. And we are getting down to the end of this graphic here, having our study session this evening. We began this process back in July and looking to wrap this up shortly. And with that, again, as was mentioned, we're asking for direction to prepare the LUCA for adoption on the consent calendar at a later date.
Okay, thank you very much, and welcome, Vice Chair. Thank you for being here tonight. This seems pretty straightforward. We're just truing up the state requirements, and then you added some sign compliance work that we've been doing for a long time. I'm frankly very relieved to have that done in this package, so I appreciate it. I don't know how many comments or questions we'll have, but I'll let our Deputy Mayor say something.
Thank you, Mayor. As you mentioned, that's the state law, and everything seems very reasonable, but I wanted to brag about both city staff and planning commission, if you let me for a second. This is a great job by staff. I think is a complex thing. First of all, out of 4 objectives, we have been already doing 3 of them before even a state mandate. That shows how we are predicting what is the best for our city. And then I really like when we go above and beyond the state mandate when we can and try to make our code and policy better. So I appreciate all of that. Planning Commission, as I am a very biased person, the best Planning Commission, did a great job. Vice Chair, thank you for being here and presenting this to us. The best example that shows how we are building trust with community is the example that you just mentioned. In the public hearing, last minute, we hear something that is common sense from the stakeholders. The Planning Commission listen carefully and consider and discuss it. The staff go and work on it, and if it is common sense, that's been added to the code. This is the collaborative approach that I think builds trust between the city and the community, and that's why I think it's very important to highlight that. I just have 2 quick comments, 1 comment, 1 question. One is if the city staff see any risk on design quality, because now we are going to be very objectively measurable approach. Do you think there would be any risk that project may meet just the technical requirements but lack the high quality design outcomes that we are as a city striving for? So that's kind of my question, and if you don't have any risk, that's great, and I don't have any other. And the other recommendation is, are we, because this HB 1293 is emphasizing in objective criteria, then that brings AI to mind, that if we are going at some point to incorporate AI driven tools to automate some of these design review process to make it faster and maybe cheaper. So that's me, Mayor. Thank you so much.
Great, and thank you, Deputy Mayor, both for the comments and the questions. So with the first question around whether staff believes we might be compromising some of the design outcomes through this effort, we are, of course, tightening up language, as Kirsten noted, trying to make things a bit more objective. Where we had more of the squishy or subjective language, it was in our guidelines, which are really difficult to enforce anyway. But there was a lot of good thinking and effort that went into crafting those guidelines. So we did take some effort to incorporate that intent statements so that they guide how standards are applied, which is really important and gives everyone kind of context to what are we really trying to get to with this standard here. And we've also preserved kind of our flexibility to give developers and architects a creative outlet through our departure process. So the bill mandates that our baseline requirements have to be clear and objective, but it does allow us to provide kind of alternate paths to compliance. And through that mechanism, we can apply a bit more creativity and offer that kind of flexibility and creativity to the design community, which is something that really came about in the 2017 Downtown Livability Update, where they wanted, these departure paths. So we created for the first time a departure pathway in 2017. So we preserved that through this update. So that creativity is still available. And then the question on AI, not the right person to be responding, but I do know in talking a lot with our business services director and Rebecca Horner, who's behind me, our department director, we are continuing to look at technological advancements and figuring out how we can apply those to streamline our processes. And we also continue to partner with our IT department, who will be presenting to you later tonight, to identify kind of where innovative approaches might be really appropriate or ripe to help advance some of the goals that we have as a city and as a department. So streamlining is kind of a huge area of focus for our department, and I think there's great opportunities in the future to apply technology.
That's great. Thank you so much for your responses.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions? Go ahead, Councilmember Newenhouse.
Thank you. Echo the Deputy Mayor's comments there. Great presentation. Thank you all for being here this evening. And thanks for the great work to get us aligned with the state and doing, as you mentioned, some of these things ahead of time before we even had to do them, we were doing them. So that's great. I just had two quick questions. So number one thing just as a personal value, it's just concerning to me when I see that we're only allowed to have one public hearing per So are we looking at addressing that by shoring up other ways that either stakeholders or the community can communicate their thoughts and concerns with us due to that new mandate? That's question number one. I'll give you my other one after you give me the answer on that, please.
Sure.
Yeah.
So the current kind of the baseline requirement that Bellevue's been operating on is not requiring those public meetings. What we've found is that it really benefits both the project applicant and the community to better understand what is being applied for. And so almost always developers are choosing to provide this public meeting. And so that we don't anticipate changing going forward. And that wasn't a change proposed as part of this package.
Okay. Okay, great. And then another question actually sent in by a constituent on two items that were removed from the LUCA. Just curious as why that was done. In the red line version on page 24, require public seating to have a sense of separation from vehicular traffic. And the other one was about, again, sidewalks. Would they have weather protection or not? I'm not sure if that was necessary or not, or what the rationale of the argument was to have that removed, but it would seem like it might be a safety issue in terms of protection from rain and shade in summer that allows some daylight penetration. Can you address those two? It was on page 22 and 24. If you
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I can speak. That's for our downtown code where those apply.
Yep.
And the downtown code does have standards that require overhead weather protection on certain rights of way, and that is a very clear standard and objective, and so that has been maintained. Some of the other language that provides the guidance on where seating should be or what are the goals that weather protection are trying to accomplish. Some of that was not necessarily adding value to the review process because we have other standards that will get at that same sort of
So it's repetitive then.
expectation of development. So the safety considerations that's still accounted for either in the land use code or through the transportation code. And so we felt we had good coverage on some of those pieces there.
Great. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Okay, Councilmember Lee.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate the question that's being asked. But before that, I want to thank the Planning Commission because we obviously very interested to make sure that we hear the public, the community, and I think through you guys working hard at it, addresses to me the concern or the question I have based on what Deputy Mayor was asking. Subjectivity and objectivity. There's got to be some conflict. I believe in objectivity, we all do. But I also believe in reality. We all are human beings. We all have different ideas. The question I have is, I think that you've done a good job. You're going to abide by being objective. The concern I have is, I know your answer is very good. I like that. You keep flexibility. You can work through it and all that. Is there an example that you have now that may border on some objective things that we are doing, but while we hear from the public, there might be some subjectivity there, that how do we how do we handle that? How do we manage that? You know, it's going to happen in the future, maybe, not now. So maybe that's just one question. Is there something that, you can give as an example that when you discuss it, I'm sure there's discussion about, well, what is objective, what is subjective, what can we do, what can we not do? So how do we abide by that? Second is, I really think that you guys have done a good job. And so when we get to the point when we do have a conflict, what do you think that we can manage to resolve that conflict? I don't know whether you can answer that, but maybe at least you've thought about it. So just by, maybe say a few words about it, that might help me. So that's my important question. Thank you.
Sure. Kirsten, I can start out and love for you to add to, and Vice Chair, as you'd like as well. Maybe we'll start with the second question about the conflict. That is not something that Development Services is a stranger to. Anytime you're applying code and when people have sort of their interpretation or idea of how that code should be read, we often kind of have those conversations with the development community. And so I think that, where we can tighten up language and make things more clear or ascertainable for folks, we'll all benefit through that kind of effort. And that was really one of the guiding kind of objectives when we were updating the code. We are, as you noted, we're all human. We all have ways of interpreting things, and I don't think, we're ever going to get to total objectivity in language unless it's an absolute prescribed standard. And then you kind of have those downsides of maybe that's getting overly prescriptive, and maybe some of these buildings start to look more formulaic. And so then you don't want that outcome either. So that was actually something the commission was really talking about as well, that there is never going to be kind of that perfect objective language, and we might not want that pure objective language. So, and Kirsten, I know you kind of worked with our land use staff, so if you have anything to add, and then Vice Chair, you've been processing this for months now.
Yeah, I was just going to add, in terms of our discussions with the land use team, we're really focused on talking with the land use folks that specialize in the design review process and the design review code. Many of them also have a design background as well. And one of the terms we focused on as part of the review, that's from the bill itself actually, is this term ascertainable, which I think addresses that concern that, objectivity is a spectrum. So we're trying to get at sort of the best right answer for a piece of code that is at least ascertainable to all people involved. And again, trying to get to that sweet spot of objective, but not too restrictive, and still allowing for some of that flexibility. But at least, all parties involved can kind of understand what we're trying to achieve as a part of trying to resolve maybe potential conflicts that would come up.
Yeah, my compliment to you when you talk about this, and also the structure you set up, allowing these kind of things to be discussed, conversation to happen. I think that's great. So thank you. That's it.
Okay. Are we good? All right. Is there a motion, please?
I move to direct staff to finalize the LUCA ordinance for final action as part of the consent agenda at a future meeting.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good job. Do you want to take a break, or are you good?
I always love the break, but I'm good too.
All right. Let's see if we can get through our next one, then. Go ahead, City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and council members. The City of Bellevue has been and continues to be a safe city for our community to live in, for business members, and people to work in and to visit. And I'm very thankful for the work of the Bellevue Police Department and our officers, that they ensure that safety is continued. So tonight, I'm very pleased to welcome our police department leadership to report on the crime statistics from 2024, and also to share a little bit about their very extraordinary efforts to recruit new officers and to retain talent for the long term. So with that, we are joined by our police chief, Wendell Shirley, Assistant Chief Andrew Popachuk, and Assistant Chief Constance Slappy. And with that, I'll hand it over to Chief Shirley.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Robinson, Deputy Mayor Malakutian, city staff, city council members. Pleasure to speak to you this evening. Before I begin, as you know, law enforcement has gone through a seismic change since the summer of 2020. These national changes have presented challenges to retain a workforce and also to retain and hire, actually, good, exceptional individuals that meet the qualifications. Bellevue was certainly not immune to these national trends. But I want to thank you for the invitation to speak tonight, because what we have to share not only demonstrates how Bellevue officers and professional staff rose to the challenge and adapted to these ever-evolving systems, but we did just that, while also continuing to maintain Bellevue as a safe place to live for those that visit and work and visit our great city. I believe Bellevue Police has an advantage that maybe some other regions may not have. Strong community support, buy-in from city leadership, and a vision that will continue to make us leaders of today and for the future. Next slide. Next slide. There we go. One thing that I'd like to start with to talk about is retention and hiring. And I think one thing that attracts a lot of candidates to this great city is a benefit package that our police department is afforded. And that's thankful to our council as well. I'm just listing a few of the benefits that I think draw people to our police department, such as our officer wellness program. We have a full-time sergeant that is there for our officers for various needs that they may have, whether it's financial, mental, relationship issues, you name it. We have that for them. The last budget cycle, the council approved take-home car program. And a lot of other agencies in this region had that. And I firmly believe that helped us to be just as competitive as many other agencies. The hiring bonuses for laterals. You guys just recently approved up to $30,000 for laterals. And I can tell you that is helping. We've had about 5 laterals take advantage of that so far. And they come from out of state. And I can tell you, moving from out of state is quite expensive. And many of them don't have the money to do it. And so I think it made them and their families' decision a lot easier. They wanted to come here, and they were able to afford to get here. So I do think that was a big benefit. And lastly, the strong public support we receive. When I do my chiefs interviews with them, they talk about these very things, about wanting to come to Bellevue. So I think the benefit package that we provide and the opportunities here that we provide is a strong recruiting tool for us. Next slide.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about where we are right now. The City of Bellevue Police Department is allocated 206 commissioned police officers. And of that 206, we currently have 190 filled. The data here that I'm talking about is going to be up to date as of last week on Thursday, the 30th, because it's an ever-changing number as we hire. So I just wanted to give the date that these are current to. The police department is also supported by a great professional staff, and right now we only have 4 vacancies. 46 of 50 of the professional staff are currently filled. And with both the commission staff and the professional staff, we have a number of people in backgrounds right now that we're backgrounding and getting them, making sure that they're ready and that they are willing to take the jump into our organization, because we want to make sure we're doing this proper backgrounding, the proper reference checks, so that we have the right people working for this agency. On the right side of the slide, you can see last year, so from January 1st of 2024 up into the 30th of last month, we've hired 46 new commissioned staff. That's a net gain for our organization of 17 officers. We currently have the 16 vacancies, and you can see that number doesn't quite add up between 46 and our current vacancy number. That's because we do still have retirements, people leaving our organization. We also have some that have lateral to other organizations, and also not everybody makes it through the training process. part of being a police officer. It is difficult to do this job sometimes, and it's not for everyone. And when people hit the FTO and training process, sometimes they realize it's not for them or they cannot do this job. And unfortunately, those individuals no longer stay with us because we want to make sure we're choosing the right people to work for this city. And in that time period, we also had 694 applications. So there is a lot of people. The benefit of all those applications is we can sort through them and choose the right people. They're coming here for the right reasons to do this job the Bellevue way.
And just to kind of add in regards to, you see the 16 vacancies, just to show kind of the great progress we've made. Back in April of 2024, we were as high as 33 vacancies. So you can see we are really closing that gap, and I firmly believe this year we're going to close that gap all the way. Professional development. This speaks back to retention, in my opinion. I think it's really important for people to feel like they're respected, that they're valued, and that they're given opportunities at work, right, in order for them to stay there. And so I thought it was really important for us to make sure we as a leadership team were on the same page philosophically as it relates to how do we lead other people. And so we've adopted the servant leadership principles, which you can see there. And what we did was have all our supervisors go through a 2-day training with an outside facilitator so that we can certainly get on the same page and be able to serve the folks that we're tasked with supervising the best way we could. Internal communications, which is always vital, right? Making sure we're providing our staff with accurate, consistent, timely information and getting their questions answered in a timely manner. Recognition. We have several ways to recognize good work of our people, whether it's a quarterly officer staff of the quarter, officer staff of the year, and we do that on a daily basis when we identify good work. Lastly, promotional opportunities. I think everybody wants to be able to reach their full potential and have a fair chance at doing that, and that's really important to us, and so we make sure we make that available to everybody in the organization, because in the end, if folks feel, like I said at the beginning, valued and they can reach their full potential, I think they're more willing to want to stay here and do their best work, right? We want to practice community policing inside the building, just as in the community. Public safety. I'm going to shift to public safety and talk about our 2024 crime data, and we'll go into detail about that. But as I've said to the council before, our basic strategy and philosophy is the PIE: prevention, intervention, and enforcement, right? And I think you need to be able to use each one of those in order to solve community problems. You can't do it all by enforcement. It all won't work with just prevention or intervention, but I think the three-prong approach is what we found to be successful. I'm going to go over some crime terminology before we get into the data. NIBRS is a national incident-based reporting system in which agencies report their crime data each year to, and NIBRS categorizes it into 3 categories, as you can see: crimes against persons, which is your violent crime, murder, rape, assaults, things of that nature; crime against property, that's your burglaries, your thefts; and then crime against societies, that's your drug violations, weapon violations, prostitutions, pornography, and things of that nature.
Our 2024 crime statistics show us that we had a 6% reduction in our overall crime, a 2% reduction in our crimes against persons, a 7% reduction in our crimes against property, and a 4% increase in our crimes against society.
Just to go in deeper about the 4% increase in crimes in society. So in 2021, the Blake decision occurred, and in 2023, there was a legislative fix to the Blake legislation change, which then allowed us to change our process for making arrests for drug crimes. Just a quick reminder regarding that, our decision is you still can make the referral, but the department made the decision to, if it is a possession-only act, in other words, a person only had drugs on them, but there were no associated crimes, officers still had that ability to make that referral. But if that person was committing a crime, for example, if they were shoplifting and had the drugs on them, we would charge them for both the drug as well as the shoplifting. So therefore, we're still doing those referrals for individuals who had mere possession or minor possession. But if they're doing something else and then doing possession, that's that point in time. So that's where you saw this increase. We had a very small, it was a difference of only 8 in this, but it was all driven literally by the drug crimes, and that's where we saw an increase of 51 total in the drug crime area, and that's why you see that 4% increase.
And overall, there were 524 fewer crime incidents in 2024. And as an agency, our goal is to keep Bellevue safe by continuously reducing our overall crime. And as you can see, since 2022, we have been on a steady decline, and it is our intent to continue this in 2025.
So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the top 5 crimes we're seeing in the city of Bellevue. Number 1 was shoplifting, and as you can see, there was an increase in shoplifting last year, about 125 reports, which is about 9%. But something that we have done to try to address shoplifting is, for example, the Stop the Lift campaign over the holiday season. That resulted in 161 arrests, and that was accompanied by a lot of media and making sure that people understand that if they come, we don't want them to come to Bellevue to commit these crimes. Also, we're always working in concert, using our data with business owners to try to address the higher locations where we're seeing the shoplifting occurring, and then deploying our officers to work with the business owners to try to reduce that shoplifting crime, because we want to work in partnership with the members of the community so that we're addressing this, the crime that's occurring. So in motor vehicle, thefts from motor vehicles, or we call motor vehicle prowls as well, we saw a decrease. It's a 4% decrease. It's 43 fewer crimes reported. In theft, this is a theft that's like theft of mail, other types of theft. We saw 9 fewer crimes, but that's separate, like from theft of a building, that actually went down by 19%. And all larceny, which is all types of theft, we actually saw a 2% decrease in that. So in theft in multiple areas, we actually saw a decrease. Saw the same thing in vandalism, a decrease in vandalism of 29 fewer crimes. And then simple assault, we actually saw an increase of 17 crimes, which is a 3% increase. But a majority of these are actually domestic violence cases. And that's where we want to thank the council for their support, especially in the DV advocate, because we find that that's something that's very useful for us to have the advocate working within the police department to assist us with these crimes. Because even though with domestic violence, it's something that we can address through that work with that DV advocate.
And I'll add real quick, and we recognize that the community is, certainly concerned about shoplifting, right? And so are we. And so that's why we're really working hard with the business owners and building that relationship and talking to them about their policies as it relates to calling us and making sure we can get there fast and make an arrest. So we recognize that's a major concern in our community, and rest assured for 2025, we're doing everything we can to reduce that. That's why we did the holiday initiative to let folks know we have a zero tolerance for that. And so just wanted to share that with you.
So overall, for calls for service, we actually had 739 calls for service, fewer calls for service.
Hold on. Yeah.
Slide 12.
There we go.
So we had 739 fewer calls for service this year than last. Our response time was 3 minutes and 35 seconds. Anything under 5 minutes is something that we view as good for us. It is slightly higher, but we're still in that 3 minute and 30 area. It's something that we want to make sure that when you're calling 911 for a priority one is emergency type life-threatening calls, that we're responding quickly. And for us, that's actually a very good response time, we believe. The other thing we have here is a Spider app. Something we do is when you contact the police department through 911, we actually provide text updates to the caller on many types of calls. And those text updates will give you in case the officer's delayed, or if after the call is closed, we give you case numbers and other information. Along with that, we actually do a survey because we know these individuals have actually had contact with a police officer. And our approval rating through that survey process is 4.45 out of 5. And that's something that we always continue to work on. We use that data to also let our officers know, hey, you did a great job on this call. As well as if we see any trends or things of concern, it's something where we can change our processes or try to get information a different way, or if someone's not getting information about their call, something we can try to address internally. And we had over almost 4,000 responses, over 3,800 responses to those surveys last year. And that's something we're going to continue into 2025 because it's a great opportunity to interact and get direct information from people who we actually had contact with.
And lastly, community engagement, right? That's one of the main ingredients of our whole PIE philosophy. And this is just a list of some of the things we do to interact with our community. We already talked about Stop the Lift. We gave out almost 900 anti-theft wheel locks. That strong partnership we're building with our business community. And some of the stuff we do with our young people, the Shop with the Cop, right? Which is probably one of my favorite events. And also, we just completed our second annual Police Youth Academy. We actually did it for 2 days for middle school and 2 days for high school. And I can tell you we had well over 100 applications for about 35 spots. So it is very, very popular. I'm a firm believer that young people and police officers can build a good relationship. And our whole goal for the Youth Academy is two-pronged, right? It's to build that relationship with young people and let them get comfortable with police officers and vice versa, but also help them with decision-making in their everyday life, right? At school or wherever they're at. And so it's been a huge hit, and we're real happy with that. And we continue to have our sector program, right? Our sector captain program, in which we communicate with our community. And obviously, we can't communicate enough with our community. Lastly, tomorrow, our goals are to continue to retain our workforce, the good people that work here, to fill our vacancies with the right people. We're at about 16, and that's going to drop. I have no doubt about it. We're looking at a reorganization plan so that we're prepared and ready to serve this community with all the different units and details we think we'll need as the city continues to grow. And we'll always continue to look at new technologies and ways to do our jobs better and more efficiently. With that, I'd like to thank the council, thank the city, and I really want to give a shout out, if you will, to the men and women of the police department. I can tell you they're dedicated, they're committed, keeping this community safe, and so I couldn't be prouder to be the chief. So thank you. We'll open it up for any questions.
Thank you. That's a wonderful, impressive presentation, and we appreciate you so much. One thing I didn't see there is, are we tracking hate crimes?
We do track hate crimes. I don't have the specific data for you. I can get it for you, but we absolutely do track hate crimes and bias and things of that nature.
And are we reporting it nationally so that they have the data from our city?
Yeah, through NIBRS, we report all of our crime each year. Absolutely.
Okay. I would be curious to know if those are going up or down, because I know we had a really good Hate Has No Home Here campaign for a while, and that's something I think we could boost if we felt that if those stats are not going down. Okay, thank you. Councilmember Hamilton, any comments or questions?
Yes, great, thank you, Mayor. Thank you all for being here. Thanks for the presentation. A lot of really good news in there. Really impressed with how well you've executed your plans to lower crime and add to the ranks of our amazing police force. As I'm sure you can imagine, I often hear about the high value that our community puts on public safety. And just as often I hear about the confidence that our community has in your leadership and the service that our officers provide to them every day. I've had a chance to be out in the field with officers a couple of times, including last spring with Officer Rodriguez, when he and some of his fellow officers, including Officer Cerna, who spends a lot of Tuesday nights with us here, were involved in a situation that required poise, professionalism, and a physical response. And they got the job done. They were calm and kind and as capable really as they could be. So I've seen for myself how amazing our officers are. Also appreciate the clarity, Chief, that you recently brought to the department's policy regarding the immigration status of victims and witnesses. I think it's so important for us to remind community members that the BPD will not ask about their immigration status ever, and that the city remains fully committed to protecting all community members regardless of their immigration status, against hate crimes and bias-related events, and really appreciate you sending that message so loudly and clearly. It's also worth noting that the city has immigrant and refugee resources webpage that has useful information for anyone who might need it. So I know there's always a lot of significant things that the department contends with. You've talked about staffing and crime rates. I know that we have a new contract coming up for our officers. Certainly hope that we have that completed before the current one expires. And I think that's an easy way too for the city to support your recruiting and retention efforts. So I know you have a full plate. You're all doing a great job, and I certainly hope you'll let me know whenever I can support your efforts. Thank you.
Great. Councilmember Nunhaus.
Thank you, Mayor, and I share the mayor's thoughts and concerns about the hate crimes, especially right now, where it seems to kind of go in cycles a little bit. We went through kind of this anti-Asian hate that seemed to settle down a little bit, and then we saw anti-Semitism rates start really to go up. So I personally would like to see kind of where we're at with that, and as well as keep pushing back against hate in our city. But Assistant Chief Papachak and Slappy and Chief Shirley, thank you for being here. Great report tonight. I just have a couple of quick questions. Before I dive into that, though, congratulations on apprehending the individual who was responsible for I guess, a mugging or targeting, and it probably wasn't the first time, a senior Asian right outside of H Mart. I got a lot of calls on that, and as well as reached out directly, so I know that was a real concern amongst our Asian community. So thanks for the great work there, and having to, I guess even more difficult, having to go into another jurisdiction and coordinating with other agencies in order to make that arrest. But this individual certainly was doing a lot more than just shoplifting or targeting and stealing purses from our seniors in our community. So that was a great win, and you deserve all the recognition that you've received on that. A couple of questions that I had were on the first on the personnel structure. And the number of new additions to the department. Could you break down what percentage were laterals versus new hires? I think, what was it, 46 new hires in general? But I was just curious which ones were direct laterals.
I think, majority of them, as he looks for the data, a majority of them were new hires.
Right.
And we've had, from 2024 to date, we've had 8 lateral hires.
8 laterals.
Right.
Okay.
So, and that's typical for most police departments. You typically will have far more new hires than you have laterals. A lot of people don't just lateral around as much as new hires. So I know we had 8 total from 2024 to year to date. So the remainder.
8,
are new
okay.
hires.
Okay.
Yes.
So of the 694, what percentage or how many actually, and then not including laterals, but actually started and going through the training regimen to see if this was the right fit for them? Went through that training, not only our training, but in terms of meeting the requirements to become a police officer. I'm just curious what that looks like.
Yeah. So, like we said, we had over 694 applications. And so what we do, obviously, is go through the applications, and when they apply for us, they have to take a written test.
Right.
A state test. And then those that earmark want to apply for us, we review their whole application, right? And we do an initial interview ourselves. Well, we do an initial assessment based on the applications, right? Because sometimes in the application, there are automatic disqualifiers, right?
Sure.
That won't allow you to proceed. But then those that do proceed, there's an interview that we'll have to kind of assess, right, what we think their ability is to understanding this work, why they want to get into this job, and things of that nature. If they proceed through, then there's an entire background process that you guys are aware of with police in terms of they've got to go through a full-on background test, psychological test, polygraph test. I mean, it's pretty detailed. And one thing I'm very proud of is we have gotten our background process down to probably about 8 weeks, 8 to 10 weeks. We can do an entire background and get somebody hired. which is pretty quick. But there are times when they'll get to either the chief's interview, and I don't think they're quite what we're looking for as it relates to why you want to do this work and kind of what your whole background has been. And we even get into maturity level, right? I mean, this is a huge responsibility. And so that's why we've, taken our time making sure we try and hire the right people. We've also taken a look at our hiring process, right, just to make sure we're getting the right people. Another challenge we've had is when we do hire them, the academy there's only one academy in the state of Washington. Then there's a couple of satellites, right? And all the agencies are competing for spots, right? We've been fortunate. We've been able to get 3, 4, maybe 5 spots because we've designated an officer to be a trainer at the academy, right? So it kind of gets us a little bit in the front of the line. But once they graduate from there, we found we've had to do probably 80 to 100 extra hours of additional training because they weren't getting all the training they needed in the academy, right? So that slows down our process of getting them into the field training program and getting them out on the street to be a solo officer. So it's a process.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that additional information on the process. I'm just curious about the number of 694 came in, not including laterals. How many went through the academy? They didn't make it, they made it, I guess, through the interview process.
Yeah.
We sent them to academy, but, how many actually went there?
Well, we can get you that number. We don't
Okay.
have that
No,
exact number,
it's
but.
the 43 that we hired.
Okay.
Those are the 43 of that 600 that were hired by us. There were of those 43 that we hired, some of them did not complete the FTO and training process. That's
Okay.
where you have a net gain of 17 of that.
Okay, so the vast majority that are getting through the academy, we are still hiring them. They are not leaving to go to another agency or decide this is not the right career for them.
We've had a mixed bag of that. We've had,
Yeah.
like in 2024, we had a good number of new hires that had the discovery
Okay.
that this wasn't for them.
Gotcha.
And to be honest with you, I'd rather them do it there.
Sure, no, absolutely.
Rather them do it
Yeah.
there, because if they're not sure about doing this kind of work, it's not safe for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
We did have a good number of folks do that, and that's when we kind of took a pause
Yeah.
and kind of like reevaluated our process, right? And
Yep.
who we're selecting and how we're selecting them.
Appreciate that. On the slide regarding the actual data statistics, I'm just curious, are those cases, arrests, convictions? Can you tell me what that, what the numbers actually are?
Are you talking about the crime statistics?
Yeah, the
slides?
crime statistics, correct. What you showed us on slide 9, for example.
There?
Yep.
Slide 9.
Yep.
So for slide 9, when you say our 524 difference in overall crime, is that
No,
what you're
I'm
asking?
saying, so when you're comparing 24 to 23, such as overall crime, right, you've got specific numbers there, 7,705 versus 8,229. So does that number represent a case, an arrest, a conviction? What is that number?
So that's case, in essence, cases for that.
That's
not
cases, okay.
conviction- That's not taking into account convictions or arrests. That's
Okay.
reported acts that would fall under the NIBR's definition of
Gotcha.
this type of crime. And that's something we track month by month over the year.
Okay.
And then those will change. And as we, in essence, close out each month, our crime analysts and our crime data people will actually pull that together and publish that as part every month.
Perfect.
As those cases are concluded. That statistic is not an arrest statistic. It's the how many reports
Yeah.
that fall into that category.
Gotcha. Thank you for that
Absolutely.
clarification. Last question. So are we keeping pace with other agencies in terms of, and it sounds like we are, but I still want to ask the question because it's so important. Are we keeping pace in terms of other recruiting tactics and retention tactics out there? Obviously, we're doing a lot of great things and have been over the last couple of years with, take-home cars, increase of bonus, et cetera, but knowing how competitive it is and knowing especially some out there, in South King County, Port of Seattle, et cetera, they're constantly looking, for other officers to poach. So are there any other tactics out there tactics that we're missing that we need to be looking at?
Well, I'll tell you this, we're very competitive, and we're always looking at new and different ways
Yeah.
and areas and regions in which we want to target and focus on. And so, for example, looking at universities, looking at the athletic departments, right? And really trying to connect with the athletic department and maybe getting in there, getting some presentations, because we all know a lot of former athletes become police officers and firefighters. And so we're always thinking of new ways in our training unit as well. We have a recruiting cadre that we send out of state, and they do recruiting information, seminars, et cetera. So we're right there with everybody else. I think we got a better product to offer, but
You're a little
right.
biased. In a good way.
I will,
All right.
oh, sorry.
Well, I appreciate it. I was going to say, just as Councilmember Hamilton mentioned, if there's anything ever that we need to be looking at to remain competitive, either recruiting or retention-wise, then please let us know.
No. We appreciate the support,
Yep.
and as I started with the benefits and packages, I think that helped us tremendously. Thank you.
Great. Councilmember Stokes.
Yeah, I appreciate the questions and responses right there. This is really an amazing presentation and all. It's very good to see this. I don't think we've had one quite as detailed as this, and this is really helpful to us and the public to see this. I think what is really great to see this, the public info about the police department's efforts to serve the city. It's something people need to know about, because you get, sometimes people are negative about what are the police doing, and you have you really sterling efforts here. And, you know, and I really appreciate, and the questions that have been asked already show that you're continuing to have, make positive advances in increasing safety and crime reduction. I mean, that's really important. It's, you know, any group like this, you go out and you do your job, you already know that you're a police officer, you know what you're doing. Well, you know, that's just an ongoing thing, and it's really impressive as to how much you are doing to increase the skills and the work and all of your officers, and the fact that you're very careful about who stays there and who goes forward. So I think it's just outstanding, and I would hope that we could get a little effort to get more information out to the public about the police department and what it does and how positive it is, and how we're struggling in something that everybody else is struggling in crime rates and things. But we seem to be, shows that we have a really good effort, and our police department is just really keeping forward, moving forward, and helping this city be safe. And I really appreciate that, and we all do. And also the willingness to talk about this in the public, what you do, is also very, very helpful for the whole atmosphere and for people realizing that we really do have a great police department. So appreciate it very much, and looking forward to working with you and seeing you again. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Councilmember Lee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, the fact speaks for itself. Bellevue is still one of the best places, if not the best, in terms of public safety. And people want to come to live here. People know it's one of the safest places that we have around here. So I think this presentation is very good, because it really is useful for both of us, for both you and also the council, because your job is to carry out the policies that we believe it's important for the public and for us through you. How do you execute it? And so we don't know exactly sometimes. You don't know our policy exactly. We have to update you, and you present it to us, and we check in with each other. So I really appreciate this as a real check-in time to see we are right on track. And I think by and large, as I mentioned, facts speak for itself. We're on track. We are lucky that we have you, all the wonderful team, the Bellevue, of the best of the city, to how do you maintain our safety, our community, We have our own challenges. We all know that. And so I want to take this as an opportunity to say that even my own personal relationship, if anything that I need you, we're all part of the community. So we all shop, we all go do things, we have our own homes, and we all drive. And so our experience, what we've heard, it's all good, okay? Obviously, there are some concerns, like anybody else does. Nothing's perfect. So I hope I can maybe share some of that with you. And one thing would be, I think, technology. I noticed that's one of the priorities that you have for the future. I really think that we should take advantage of that. I don't know how much the city council has directed, for you, but I believe it's very important because it's self-evident, why it's safe. It's safe for you, safe for everybody, and it's much more efficient, effective, and all that stuff. So I hope that you will come to the council with your idea, with the proposal, and if we believe that's the case, we need to support you. All right, so thank you. And in addition, you have also the public supporting you. You have Bellevue Police Foundation helping you. But theoretically, the city should really provide you all the resources. And whatever they give you is something that may be just extra, right? But the essential things we need to provide you. So I really think that technology is important. The other one is, I think I kind of heard, it's not that obvious, but I just heard that there may be some reduction in service for the downtown bike officers. I don't know whether that is a priority or not. Well, how will it affect the public safety as a whole? Or does it affect specifically a particular population, like downtown? But, if that's the case, maybe, you can, explain to us a little bit, or tell us. Not necessarily now, but at least something to consider. If this, in fact, the case, there might be a reason for it, which is fine, right? The other one is, when you mention your data, you said when you have call for service, it's gone up or gone down, I don't remember quite exactly. I'm just curious, as an individual, when you check call of service, is it 911 that's the call for service, or what kind of statistic do you track?
Yeah, when
when
we
you have
speak
call for
to,
service?
when we speak to call for service for all of 2024, all of 2023, we're talking about all the calls for service. Emergency calls, which is your priority 1, 911, or priority 2, it's all of the calls that come in. It could be just to come and take a theft report, it could be an emergency, it could be a number of things, but it's all together.
Yes, okay. And I think, finally, two more things. One is people have asked about hate crime. In a way, I don't know whether it's just an easy label to say hate crime. But I think there is an increase, or it's an easy target for certain populations, like senior citizens, the elderlies, or like the maybe Asian Americans. They look vulnerable, or whatever it is. So I'm just curious, what is the statistic on that? Whether this is increasing, or why is it, and what happened that we can reduce that kind of incidents? I'm sure the victims themselves will want to know too. What are they doing that's attracting, the criminals in that sense? And I think my contact with you is I heard about it through another source, and I mentioned to you, and you responded immediately, and you took care of it. We got the guy. See, that's the point. You delivered. That's important. But why is it? Maybe are they increased, or are they not, or why is it? How do we prevent that from happening? I think that's another. Again, you don't need to answer right away, but it's something to consider. So I think that's where we have interaction now. Right now, it's very helpful. But the final point, as I mentioned, is, let's see. Your officers, your recruitment. Well, I know that we have a lot of culture here now. So culturally speaking, it'd be very effective to have people who can identify, who has more easy interaction with the victim and with the police. So are we getting adequate staff that can respond to the different multicultural community that we have in Bellevue, or even elsewhere they come here? And what are the effort we're doing to recruit some of them if we're not there? And what happens in terms of their promotion, their progress in the department? So that's another statistic, another conversation I believe that we should have with you guys, right? So that we know, is there a need for it? How much the country should support you? Or maybe there is not a need. We're already good, and we can devote our effort and resources on other things that may be more important. Thank you.
Got it, thank you.
Okay, sounds like there's some email information you could get back to all of us.
Yeah,
So
sure.
appreciate that. And Deputy Mayor?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, all of you, Chief, two assistant amazing chiefs that we have here. All of my colleagues mentioned all of the important stuff. I just wanted to congratulate you on 6% reduction in the crime or cases. That's awesome. Your average response rate, less than 4 minutes, I think that's amazing. I think everyone seeing those numbers should feel safe. 4,000 responses to your spider text message, and your number is 4.65 out of 5. I don't even know how to digest that. That's amazing customer service. Like, restaurants would love to have that. They would be #1 in Yelp if they have that. So that shows how amazing job you are doing. So thank you so much for that. The best slide, in my opinion, because that's kind of my job, is your slide number 5. That shows that you have one slide on investing in your people and making them to feel belong to this department. And we all know retention is much cheaper than hiring new people. So you are doing this professional development, you're recognizing them, we as a body recognizing them, you're doing training and hopefully growth and development and promotion. That's awesome. So I really appreciate that. The only question I have that you put it in my brain by your last slide is if you can, you had some reorganization there. Can you talk about that more? In the last slide, if you go to the last slide, there was a line about reorg plan.
Yes. Yes.
Can you talk about this more, or is it some coming future and you don't even know about it right now?
No. We currently, the way we're currently structured, we just took a close look at how we're structured, right? And we have an operations division, we have an administrative division, and we're looking at span of control for our managers, right? And right now, we're a little lopsided, meaning one assistant chief, not that one does more or less work than the other, but as an example, one assistant chief has approximately 160 staff, whereas the other assistant chief has like 50, right?
More balancing.
So it almost like we put, everything has been placed in one division, and we need to balance that out with the span of control so that we can put things in their proper division. And so we're looking to streamline it, create 4 different divisions, and then our supervisors and our officers, hypothetically, everything related to patrol will be managed by patrol. Everything related to investigations will be investigations. Special assignments, special enforcement, such as your motors, your bikes, things of that nature. So putting things in the proper place so
That's
we can
awesome.
better manage them and be more effective.
Thank you for sharing. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead and take a break here and come back at 10 till. Okay, we are back in session for our last study session item, and City Manager, go ahead and introduce this one.
Council. The final study session is to provide council with an overview of the work conducted this past fall and winter in support of advancing our inclusive innovation in the city. And we have from our Information Technology Department, Sabra Schneider and PJ Rodriguez. They have been instrumental in conducting this work and bringing you a really good update today to tell you what's coming in the future. So with that, I'll turn it over to Sabra.
Thank you so much, City Manager Carlson, and good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and council members. We are so excited to talk about the Inclusive Innovation Forum with you tonight. And staff, as City Manager Carlson said, have done a lot of work on this, but I would be remiss if I didn't also talk about the community members that have supported and helped us with this work and who are excited about it, some of whom spoke in public comment tonight. So this has been very much a community partnership, which is something that I think makes it so exciting. We'll try to advance, and if that fails, seek support over here. Tonight's presentation is for information only, and we are covering a couple items this evening with you. The first is very brief kind of background about how we landed at the Innovation Forum. Then PJ is going to talk more about the engagement and the results of that engagement, and then I will talk about what our next steps are and what is upcoming. So first, I want to say we tried very closely to work with the community to align the vision for the Inclusive Innovation Forum with the council vision. And we seek to bring together not only government, but private business, nonprofits, and our community to support and spark increased innovation, not only across our government services, and some of that innovation you heard about in earlier presentations today, but also throughout our community. Council supported these efforts with CIP funding in 25-26, and we are excited to really kick this work off in earnest in March. We want to partner with the incredible minds in our community to help with this work. And PJ will talk more about the connections we made to try to see if we were on the right track. But what we heard prominently from the community is that they do want to partner with Bellevue on driving innovation across the city and in our city government services. They are excited to do that and to help us with that across a number of areas. Some of those areas are giving us input on possible policy that we might bring back to this body for consideration and adoption that would support things like our speed to be able to engage in innovative partnerships. So can we work with a local startup, perhaps like the woman who spoke in public comment tonight, to test drive different ideas across city services, implement them, and go from there. So the community is excited to support those innovative partnerships. They're excited to have the city of Bellevue act as a neutral party to work with our economic development and startup 425 folks to enhance the startup ecosystem across the community. They also want to help the city adopt new technology like generative AI, like continuing to increase and advance a lot of the smart city work that we've already been doing through your leadership and funding. So we were quite excited to kind of align with the community on what those goals are for the forum. And I want to turn it over to PJ to talk briefly about the engagement process and what we learned.
Thank you, Sabra. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and council members. If we can go over just lightly over the engagement process, we did take a number of approaches and strategies, starting with informal conversations across the community and business partners. Asking the questions: what would make this compelling? What makes this interesting? And then that progressed to a more formal approach to gathering feedback and from the community and expanding that reach to nonprofits and additional business partners. fine-tuning that approach. And then the city moved forward with launching a survey to gather more data from the community. And we took this data, packaged it, and presented it at the innovation preview event. So next slide, please. At the innovation preview engagement event that occurred in November of 2024, the attendance included community members and business partners, some of which have been part and involved from previous engagements we've had. The city provided stations where folks can walk around and view vision posters. In addition, the event also included discussion panels on digital equity and startup innovation. Once more, we gathered feedback. We solicited those through discussion groups and feedback cards and surveys to help shape the next engagement. Next slide, please. And these are the results of the engagements we've had, our input to action, if we can call it that. Product of surveys, formal and informal conversations, as well as feedback, all coalesced into this. We leveraged input through various community and partner engagements, provided these following focus areas: support and enhance digital equity, augment our existing policies so we continue to drive innovative initiatives in the organization, cultivate an ecosystem that in Bellevue where innovation thrives. I will pass this back to Sabra to talk a little bit more in detail about these specific focus areas.
Thank you so much, PJ. One of the things that came out of many of the folks that we engaged with was a strong interest in helping the city advance digital equity. So thinking about, we are so fortunate to have anchor technology companies here in Bellevue, and how do we have those technology companies support Bellevue and sort of lifting all ships and in partnership to do that. There are a number of public and private sector organizations that are doing some of this work already. So a lot of these conversations centered around how can we increase the volunteers that are helping you with this, or how can we shine a light on these opportunities, or how do we partner to expand them. The priorities that came up out of digital equity from all the engagement PJ talked about, free technology support. So kind of like a help desk, but for the community. How do we let people come in and get quick computer support? Mini City Hall is doing that already through a partnership with a community group, and it's for a couple hours a week. So could we expand that at different locations throughout the city and expand the hours through a volunteer group of people that want to do this? Similarly, basics classes, can we partner with some of the folks that are already doing this, including King County Public Libraries, Bellevue College, other education institutions that want to do this work, and maybe we can help feed them faculty or volunteers to help run the classes. Access to technology. A lot of folks that came to those sessions talked about wanting the city of Bellevue and maybe other large employers in the area to think about their quality surplus, and can we pass the things that still have a shelf life on to community members who might not have access to technology right now. So two other things that kind of rose up in the digital equity realm, expanding free and low-cost connectivity options. Council may remember we did receive a federal grant to get started on some of that in some interesting and innovative ways, and we are currently partnering with the community to do that. How can we do more of that? And then training and education partnerships for job readiness. Some of the high-tech communities that came to the forum talked about really wanting to make sure their workforce is ready for the jobs of the future, and can we help facilitate partnerships with folks that are already doing training to make sure students are getting training that makes them job ready. So there was a lot of excitement on the digital equity front about Bellevue being a convener and the community kind of helping us expand that, which we were really gratified to hear. The next area of focus that came out of our engagement was policies and priorities, and thinking about the community really helping us make it easier to test and grow innovative ideas in the city. And I spoke about this a little earlier in the presentation. A lot of startups want to work with the city of Bellevue to, test an idea and see if it works before it grows. We would like to make it easier to do that. And so are there policies or processes that we could bring to this body, vetted by some of the people in the startups, that might make that easier? The community is very interested in helping us with that. They're also really interested in kind of the flip side of that. What are some of the technology problems or challenges we're trying to solve as a government, and could they help us do that? So both of those things rose to the top. Thinking about innovation framework was the next one. So how do we have the most impact with the innovation that we do, and what's most important to the community? They also wanted to make sure as we're developing or enhancing existing technology policies, that they're weighing in on what that looks like, how the city might use AI. Do we need augmented privacy policies? How are we making sure it's fair and equitable? What are we doing with smart cities? So our hope is they can help us get their input before we bring potential things to this body for consideration. Last but certainly not least, because this was the item that folks were the most excited about, thank you. We want to talk about supporting a thriving innovation ecosystem. These are conversations that IT has been having in partnership with economic development and with Startup 425. One of the things that we kept hearing again and again from the community, and you heard a little bit in public comment tonight too, is Bellevue as a neutral convener to bring all these folks together. Some of our business partners have talked about really needing that neutral startup space that could potentially benefit small business, technology startups, folks trying to learn technology or business and be employable. So kind of bringing all those folks together in a neutral space, be it physical or digital, to try to get the kismet that comes from that. Many community members talked about wanting to help us fundraise to do those efforts. So we're really appreciative of kind of the seed money that council put into this to help us get to this point. So what's next? We are hosting the next Inclusive Innovation Forum in Bellevue City Hall on March 5th from 6 to 8 p.m. And folks can learn more and register at bellevuelaw.gov/inclusive innovation. During that event, what we are hoping to do is take all the data we gathered, some of which we've presented to you tonight, present it back to the folks who helped us gather it to begin with, and then really start prioritizing what we want to accomplish this year and next, trying to look at things that will be the most impactful. Out of that group, we are hoping to have a couple work plans for the 3 sub-teams I just identified, and we hope to be back before you if we are invited at the end of the year to talk about everything we accomplished. The other thing I want to highlight for the audience is the Startup 425 Accelerator Cohort 2. Many folks who came to the Innovation Forum were very interested in how are we supporting small business and learning more about Startup 425. So they are now accepting applications for their second cohort. And I've heard great things about the first one from people who went through it. So folks can learn more about that at startup425.org if they are interested. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you so much. Deputy Mayor, I believe
Yes.
you participated, so let's
Yes,
have you
I
weigh in
did.
if you'd like.
Thank you, Mayor. Very exciting. I really, really appreciate all of your work, Sabra, PJ, the whole IT team, and our community who participated, our city manager, Joe Todd, I think is somewhere, I'm not sure where, but he has been involved and he should get credit, and other city staff. I think the effort that you put in engaging our community and businesses, educational institute to do this effort shows how you're thinking forward and inclusive and opportunity-driven ecosystem that hopefully comes out of this. I've heard so many good stuff. First of all, I love the word that you use, neutral convener. Am I right? I Googled that and said a neutral convener is a person or group who brings people together to address an issue without bias or personal stake. I think that's exactly what we should do as a city. We need, under digital equity, I really like our workforce emphasize technology is changing, what we are doing, training, educating people. How can we be that convener with all of the Bellevue College here, all of our businesses here, so that's awesome. Under augment policies and priorities, I love that you are trying to be the beta tester for a lot of good ideas, like how we can provide, as a city, we can be a test bed for emerging tech startups, offering our infrastructure to do some pilots and in mobility, in sustainability, in any AI driven public services. I've heard that you said, although we all talk about AI, I am very happy that you are thinking about some guardrails and some policy that we have this kind of balanced, innovative approach with privacy, ethics, and potential, maybe some regularity concerns. One recommendation, I think we should have some innovation challenge and prizes. I think we can launch an annual Bellevue Innovation Challenge. We can bring all of these startups, students, community members, that if they have a solution for a civic challenge that we have, and then we can hopefully offer them some good winning prize. Two quick questions for you. How are you measuring impact? Do you have any key performance indicators that maybe after, say, hey, after 2 years of this kind of innovation forum, we are saying the success is this. What is that outcome? If there is any, I would love to hear how do you measure the impact and success. The other thing is, I've heard an amazing engagement with the small businesses, nonprofit startups. Have we reached out to our larger tech companies and they just didn't participate? Or for this, the first one, we just didn't reach out to them? So that's my two questions.
I'll answer the second one first.
Easier.
We did reach out to a lot of the large tech companies, and some of our stakeholder interviews, that kind of second piece in our engagement before the forum included anchor companies like Amazon, T-Mobile, Microsoft, Google. So we did try to reach out and include them in that way. Some of them did come to the forum, but some of them did not. So one of the speakers on the startup panel that you saw was from T-Mobile.
T-Mobile, yeah. I think we have Meta too. Are they still in Bellevue?
We do,
Yeah,
yes.
great. So I think if we can invite from Amazon, Microsoft, Meta, I think they should be part of this. Again, I love the emphasis on the startup, nonprofit, the smaller businesses. But if you are thinking really big, they are all here. So I think we should reach out to them if we have not. And I think they should be part of this.
Thank you. Your question about KPIs, I will briefly say emerging. Part of what we wanted to do was think about the work plan with the folks who attend the forum, and part of that work plan would include how will we know we're successful? And, sort of co-create that with the community. So you may have ideas, would love to hear them, and more to come on that.
Thank you. Amazing. Very exciting. Thank you, Mayor.
Great. Any other comments or questions? I think I'm so excited about this because for years we've been hearing from our partners in the community who really feel like if they had the right partners at the city, they could implement a lot of new technology into our systems. And I know it's not easy. That makes it sound really easy, and it's not. But the first step is just making those connections. And so this is what you're doing, and I'm so excited to see this and to have you, leading this charge, and I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of it.
Thank you.
Yeah, really appreciate it. You too, PJ. Okay, so
Excellent.
did you want to say something? Go ahead.
This is very exciting. I don't know why I missed the forum, the first one. I must be doing your thing with the National League of Cities. I mean, you are already a model, right, for a number of cities and other organizations. And so I think that we are very well situated. This is a land of entrepreneurs and innovations. All the big technology companies are located here. You know, we just name a bunch of them. The Deputy Mayor already did. And T-Mobile has monthly T-Hub meetings for everybody, and it's always full of people, you know, entrepreneurs, startups. They're all there trying to learn about other people's ideas. I think that's really the model of success. So it's a proven model. So I think the city can be a very important platform, because like people have said, one of the speakers early on, you know, when you have private companies, they have their own self-interest. Sometimes it's in the way. But when you have a company that has open open forum, open technology, open platform, that really shares with a lot of folks, and everybody will benefit. And I think that's really a proven model. And all the, you know, we see many California companies are moving here, Google, Meta, they are here. So I believe, you know, they are attracting lots of talents here also. But we, unfortunately, are seeing our talents going elsewhere. We have high schools. We are one of the best high school systems in the country. And they go away when they learn about technology, when they want to innovate, become entrepreneur. They go where there's infrastructure for them to do it. So I think we need to start doing that. And I think the city, public sector should be a real good one. As we heard from Mr. Sharma, innovation requires human being connected. You have to. So I think we have the right people. We have the human capital right here. So city can provide also the capital infrastructure, because the city is responsible for laws and regulations. And so I think we need to really be the convener for this type of entrepreneurship and innovation. I do have a question, because, you know, I really haven't been focusing on this since, you know, I didn't get really involved that much at the beginning. How does it differ from smart cities? Smart city has a lot of innovation, creativity, a lot of ideas.
Absolutely, great question. I think this includes smart cities, but isn't necessarily limited to that technology. So historically, anymore this isn't true, but historically we defined smart city technology as generally something with a sensor tracking data to try to be proactive. Anymore, it kind of means any innovation. But we are absolutely including that smart city technology into the innovation that this forum would support, including from a policy perspective as we deploy more and more from that very early smart city plan that council adopted, 8 years ago now, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the right examples is the EV, autonomous vehicle. California is already testing it. So why shouldn't this be a innovative entrepreneurial project for lots of folks? If government can provide the appropriate, regulations, policy to support it and to help it. So that's just an idea.
Absolutely,
Thank
thank you. One of our private sector partners in this work would very much like to do that too.
Great. Councilmember Hamilton.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. Been really intrigued and excited about this initiative since first hearing about it. I think this is a really smart and clever way for the city to support innovation that promotes opportunity, equity, mobility, and economic development within the city. And I appreciate how seriously, too, you're pursuing the council's vision of innovation as an integral part of our community. Executing on this vision is challenging, and I'm impressed with how well you're doing it and how quickly. Particularly interested in the 3 focus areas that you mentioned. Digital equity that ensures all community members can take advantage of the digital economy really is critical. Developing policies and priorities to advance innovation in our city government operations is another way to spread the benefits of the Innovation Forum to all community members. And then focusing on businesses, especially small businesses, education, and nonprofits by driving innovation they will benefit from is the right thing to do and definitely will pay off. And just hope you keep up the great work. Love to have you back before the end of the year and get the next update. So thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you so much. And we'll look forward to hearing back from you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We now are going to go into executive session. This is the end of the public portion of the agenda. We're going to discuss a matter of pending litigation for about 20 minutes, and then we'll adjourn our meeting from the executive session.